Let's go. One step at a time. I would walk my own path. A path no one had forced me to walk.
行くぞ、前原圭一。
Alright. Let's continue this pathway, Keiichi Maibara. The cicadas made an annoying fuss. Their chorus covered up their suspicious noise of me breaking twigs underfoot. And their chorus filled the path far ahead of me, letting me know I would be alone for some time. The cicadas blessed the path I walked, encouraging me with every last ounce of strength they had. The normal cicadas, from what I'm hearing. The sky was far above. In not even an hour, the veil of night would draw near and the sky would be tinted with dusk. By that time, the Higurashi would let me hear their chorus in place of the cicada. Now, there you go. The Higurashi and the cicadas. Two separate types of cicadas. The Higurashi cicadas and the normal cicadas. When that happened, would everything be over with? Would everything have ended? I said something along those lines when I left Satoka's fate up to a public agency. But this time, it was different. I would do it. I would carry it out. I would end it. It would all be over very soon. Everything would end. Yes. When the Higurashi cried. Well, so far it hasn't rained. That's also good. Let's hope that it's not gonna rain this night either. There was nobody at school. I couldn't hear the playful voices of children. And this was the first time I'd seen a school with such a lack of human presence. Still, I quieted my breath and looked around, not wanting to be unprepared. Alright. Let's see. Is there any markings of somebody being here? Or rather, somebody who was here? Yeah, it's gotten darker outside. But it was almost like my eyes could see more clearly now. I made absolutely sure of my safety, then walked to the heavy construction machine I'd hidden the metal back behind. I had a tinge of worry, a premonition, that someone had found the bat and hidden it somewhere else as a prank. Oh, if that happened, would I take that as an opportunity to desist? Well, if Keiichi is thinking of possibilities over here, I'm telling you, Keiichi is being very, very careful about this. If it really wasn't there, then the sensation of chilled metal, it was still here when I left it. It hadn't run away. Satoshi hadn't run away. He'd waited here patiently for me.
待たせたな、サトシ。いよいよだが、覚悟はいいか?
Through the metallic touch, Satoshi grins at me in my mind. That's what I should be asking you. I did this last year already. You should be more worried about yourself. Oh?
上等だぜ、サトシ。目に物を見せてやろうぜ。
Satoshi's bat got lighter and lighter, and fit into my hands like he was being absorbed. It didn't feel wrong to swing this. I could move it around so naturally it was like an extension of my own right arm. Of course it felt like that. Satoshi and I were holding one bat together. Next, I would make the call to lure the man out. Alright, well, how are we gonna do that one, Keiichi? Are we gonna go with the police or hospital route? It wasn't a bad time for it. My friends were doubtlessly parading happily through the stalls. I hadn't considered where to make the call from. my house and Satoko's are pretty far apart. If I call from my house, I would make it. Could I use the school phone? But as I thought, the room was locked up and I couldn't get in. Shit. I'm so naive. You should have at least figured this part out. Yeah, Keiichi. Why didn't you think about this part? Here, Keiichi. You should have come prepared, Keiichi. You think about everything else but this, Keiichi? I couldn't call him. And just for that, was today all over? I'm sorry, Satoshi. And just as I cursed my own naivety, a miracle occurred. Oh? A bicycle came into the schoolyard. It was a familiar middle-aged man. The one from the Forest Service field office. Why? Wasn't today Sunday? Was he here to pick up something he forgot? Oh? Anyway, the forest officer went around back and felt around in his pocket. Then unlocked the door and entered. The fuck? The best possible coincidence. And it had to be Satoshi who saved me. The metal bat, through just my contact with it, told me this was a chance I couldn't allow to slip by. The sections for the forest office and the school were neatly separated. Because we gotta remind ourselves that this place was initially like a construction building for workers who worked around here. I felt the man head into the forest office's store. I felt the man head into the forest office's storehouse, which was so far in the back students weren't allowed into it. The door didn't match its fittings well, so it didn't close all the way, and the gap in the door opened slowly as if to lure me in. I don't know, Keiichi. I took a deep breath and went in. I tiptoed along, silently and stealthily, and made it into the teacher's lounge. Although I guess you could say this is pretty good, because, okay, let's say that somebody's gonna say that all the doors were locked in the school at this point in time. Trying to think of this as a locked room mystery, I guess. And, okay, in retrospect, maybe it's not that great, but let me explain here for a second. So, let's say that the school doors are all closed, and so are the windows. So, nobody would be able to get in, except for this, like, worker right over here that just opened the door to more than likely do something. And then afterwards, after he is finished, he's gonna close the door back. It kind of depends on how long it would take. Like, I don't know. Keiichi has to make a phone call right over here, so it would take a little bit of time. So, it kind of depends if the door is still gonna be open, or it's gonna close. Like, the office worker, like, is gonna finish what they have to do and then just to close the door behind them, while Keiichi is still inside making phone call. Either way, if suspicion were to be arised for Teppei's murder, and people were to question, like, maybe the school as a place of suspicion that they would search, they are gonna question if somebody was at the school at the time of the murder. For example, maybe they are gonna think that the murder weapon is a metal bat. So they are gonna think that, maybe a metal bat? Let's check the school, because there are some students that are playing baseball. Maybe the metal bat came from either school or maybe the storage. So they are gonna check, like, if somebody was here. And somebody's gonna say, like, the office worker is gonna say, oh, well, the school was closed. I came in and did it. And, okay, I'm gonna go back to that idea, but let me finish this. I came to school to grab something and then exited. I unlocked the door for a couple of minutes to do my thing, and then just went and closed it. There is no way for somebody to have entered the school at this point, someone would think. Although some astute detectives would think that a different culprit came inside while the office worker was doing his own thing, while the door was opened, and they did their own thing, like before the office worker finished what they had to do. So they came in, did their thing, and then went out. So one would be that, like, they would probably think of Keiichi, who went here and did the phone call, maybe? As long as Keiichi does his plays his cards well. But, that's actually a good point. Like, if Keiichi plays his card well, he could make it so that the office worker would be the one to be put in suspicion right over here. Because he went to school right here for some unknown reason. I wonder if Keiichi can use this man as a scapegoat in case bad things are happening. And that was the only place with a phone. As I held my breath in the teacher's lounge, I heard the Forest Service officer walking back over. And then the back door clattered shut. I was locked. Okay, so yeah, they did what they had to do, and now the door is closed. I glanced out the window at the schoolyard and watched as the man got on his bike like nothing had happened and rode out the school gate. The school once again emptied, becoming deathly silent. I waited for a bit to make sure the silence was the real deal, then reached for the telephone on the principal's desk. I fished Satoko's house's phone number out of my pocket. Yes, the number in the class directory for Satoko had been the one from their house now, where she lived with her uncle. But yeah, bottom line, Keiichi could use that man that went in as a scapegoat. That he's the one who actually made the phone call. And you could add, even took the middle bat and did the murder. This could very well be like a miracle for Keiichi. Or a moment that entirely fucks his plan. It kind of depends on how he's going to do this. I touched the dial with my fingers, and then thought for a moment about what to say exactly when he picked up. Despite how many times I'd gone over in my head last night, now that I had my finger on the dial like this, it started to seep out of my mind like a cracked bucket leaking water. Simple would be best. More importantly, to say it straight and not sound suspicious. I mean, you could make it sound like it is an emergency, like it has to be done really, really fast, because Satoko may be like heavily injured. Like, make it simple and fast. I counted off 3 heartbeats and spun the dial. Alright, let's see. The call sound. Was Satoko's uncle pick up? Now of all times, the hope that he wouldn't pick up, and feeling of doom in the knowledge that I couldn't save Satoko if he didn't, whirled around in a vortex. Yeah. I mean, there is the possibility that that Teppei actually went to the festival, so nobody would be able to answer the phone call. Therefore, kinda has your plan ruined. In which case, you would have to go back to the Watanagashi festival and check and see if Teppei is there. And in that case, you would go with plan B and try to lure him out of the Watanagashi festival. And it kind of depends. Oh, there you go. He was the voice of a grumpy man, like he had just woken up. He picked up. Say your name so I know you're Hojo, you asshole. You would be terrible if I got it wrong. That is a good point. Because if you are the hospital or the police officer, you wouldn't make a wrong phone call. You are professional enough to know that the phone call they are making should be the Hojo. But if you were to ask them, that would create a little bit of suspicion. I made up my mind. I had all the initiative on my side. Here we go.
こちらは下根市沖宮警察です。北条さんのお宅ですか?
Okay, you can answer. You can question it like that, I guess. I was changing my voice, but did he really think I sounded like an adult? Would he believe I was the police?
はい、北条ですけど。
今、お宅のお嬢さんの北条聡子さんをこちらで保護しています。
え、聡子が？あいつ何かやらかしおりましたか?
He fell for it. I could tell by how tense he was that he didn't doubt my words.
詳しい事情はこちらにいらしてからご説明します。すぐにこちらへ来ていただくことはできますか?
今ですか? 風呂に入っちゃったからあんまし表に出たかないんですがね。
What? You don't want to come because you already took a bath?
はい、今すぐです。
すぐ。せっかく。聡子のやつ、何をしちゃったんですか?
詳しい話はこちらでいたします。では、お待ちしていますので、よろしくお願いします。
ちょっと。俺、警察署がどこかわかんないんだけど。どこよ、場所?
You moron. What the hell? The Okinomiya police station? I don't know where it is either. Ah, fuck. Well, he is gonna die. Wait, actually, hold on a second. Oh, fuck. What if he's asking... What if he's doubting that we're the police, and he's asking us to test us? Oh, God. Because I was gonna say, he doesn't know, and he's gonna die anyway, so might as well just send him to the location that you want, so that you could kill him. But if he's asking us this, and we don't have the right answer, he might... Like, his suspicions might be confirmed that we're not the police. Therefore, this is gonna be bad. Aren't you from around here? Why don't you know that? I mean, that's a good point. Granted, he hasn't been here in a really long time. Maybe he doesn't remember, but at the same time, he is from this village. A greasy sweat came off my body. Eventually, just as I was about to choke, he spoke.
消防署の隣でしたっけ? 遠いな.
Thank goodness. He remembered on his own for me. I didn't care where the police station was, so long as he left his house to get there.
では、お待ちしていますので。
俺、警察行ったら誰んとこ訪ねればいいんよ。あんた名前は?
On top of that, he wanted to know my name? Just leave your goddamn house already.
前橋と申します。
Yes, Maebashi.
では、失礼します。
That was close. I almost falsely told him my real name. I managed to change the last syllable of it, but I put the receiver down like I was running away. Okay. Although, looking back at it, Teppei questioning Keiichi if it was the police by asking that question about where the police station was, I don't know. Like, I would say that Teppei is not the smart kind of person to figure it out, but, I don't know. My fingers were trembling, soaked with a tepid sweat. I wasn't just nervous about the phone call. With that call, everything had finally been put into motion. I left the school. It was locked before, but it was easy enough to open from the inside. But I couldn't lock it again after I left. Uh-oh. Yeah, that is a good point. In terms of being photo, I wanted to lock it, but I couldn't waste time going back to the teacher's lounge and looking for the key. I needed to rush back as fast as I could and ambush him. Oh, this is gonna be bad. I zoomed back to the scene on my bike. Yeah. Now he left the door open. Like, if we had the time, we could have created like a locked room mystery type scenario where, okay, Like, we would grab the key and we would have to try to lock the door and to put the key, like, back inside. Yes, Satoko's uncle got out of town before I got there. Everything would be over. He learned there was no one at the station named Naibashi. And things would get pretty messed up. Yeah, that's a good point. As I returned at full speed, I passed a family wearing yukatas. I mean, at best, if we were to just give up on the murder here, Keiichi, he would think that it was just a prank call. But nonetheless, I get the thing that Teppei is still gonna get pissed, he's gonna get angry, and he's gonna find like even more reasons to beat Satoko up like tonight, so I don't want that. They must have been on their way to the festival. Many people in Hinamizawa knew my face, though I didn't know theirs. Even just passing by them like this made me uneasy. But I didn't generally come here around here, so those living in the area might not have known much about me. That didn't matter right now. I needed to get back as fast as possible, to control my breathing, and to ambush the man. Alright, let's go. I hid my bike in a thicket and picked up Satoshi's bat, but I just left him in the shade. And then I held my breath, waiting to see someone. I wondered if he still hadn't gotten here. Or maybe he went right out after the phone call and passed by here already. I couldn't figure out which it was, and was set upon by an indescribable impatience. Well, let's see. The only thing that we can do at this point, Keiichi, is wait. If he already passed by, then I guess that's game over for the mission. Although, I am pretty curious about what I just said before. What if Teppei is gonna die via an accident because of the traps? Like, that would be quite something. Calm down, Keiichi Maibaro. Even if he came here already, he'd pass by here on the way back, right? The end result would be the same. Yeah, it's just that, well, like, Teppei would figure out that he might have been a prank call, and he would come back home. And he would die anyway if he were to go through this. It's just that, well, the big difference is that the police station would find out that, hey, Teppei actually came to us like on the day of the murder before he died. He came to us asking some stuff about this Maebashi type person, that maybe it was a prank call. And then the next day, they're gonna find out that apparently Teppei died. So the police station are gonna question, I wonder if that quote-unquote prank call had something to do with it. Like, Maebashi. And soon, if they are smart enough, they are gonna think that, maybe that quote-unquote prank call that Teppei got for him to go back to the police to the police station was actually a way for the murderer to lure them into a place for them to be murdered. Like, they might more than likely think about that. If Teppei actually went to the police station right now, and he arrived there, and now he's going back. If that happens, then it might actually become 10 times more difficult for you, Keiichi. So, let's pray that he's actually coming from the house and he's on his way to the police station right now. Let's hope for that one. It wouldn't change the fact that he'd die. He'd probably be coming on his motorcycle. How would I stop him then? Well, there's no way that he would be able to go with a motorcycle through here. He would have to walk, right? I figured it would be best not to think too hard and just hit him as he passed. Or beat him out of his seat. The path was made of pebbles. If I hit him as hard as I could and made him lose his balance, he wouldn't be able to help fall. I mean, that's also a good point. Like, let's say that he is using his motorcycle for this path, which it's kind of crazy. You could consider it like an accident. Like, he just fell off and just died. And just like that, he hit his head on the ground. And then, the chorus of the Higurashi stopped. The sound of a bike approached from far away. I couldn't tell what sort of motorcycle it was from its sound, but I'd seen it parked before, so I'd know. He was getting rapidly closer. He was almost here. Alright. Just try your best, Keiichi. Just like a baseball match. Like the ball is coming towards you. You gotta hit it. If he just went a little farther, he'd cross into that thicket and appear in front of me. I'd take a moment to make sure it was him. And then when I had, I put my plan into action. The motorcycle appeared. A few easily identifiable characteristics told me it was Satoko's uncle's bike. Without doubt. Was it really him? Was it really Satoko's uncle? I wasn't making a mistake, was I? I looked at its characteristics again. Its color, shape, and most of all, the man's clothes and face. Those last feelings of hesitation, I did away with them. Satoko, now, your Nini will end it, okay? Closer, closer. The bike came closer. Let's go, Satoshi. Whoosh! I jumped out of the thicket. I used my shoulder to basically tackle the uncle on the bike with all my might. He gave a dumb shout as his bike completely lost its balance. Finally, it fell, the bike scattering clouds of sand, and after spinning, it stopped. Her uncle, tossed to the ground, didn't understand what had just happened, and groaned for a few moments, crouched on the ground. My breathing started to become ragged. No, I couldn't have this emotion. Some weird secretion crossed through my brain and nearly made me hallucinate. Her uncle was groaning. Now was the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. What was I doing? All the sounds in the world cut off. My mental chaos from a moment ago withdrew like a lie, and I could feel the temperature in my head rapidly cooling down. The tension in my muscles all went away like the strings they'd been attached to had been cut, and I let my hands dangle at my sides. It wasn't quite like exhaustion. Have you calmed down now, Keiichi Maebara? Do you need to remember again why things got to this point today? Scrape. Scrape. I stepped over the pebbled path, taking one step, another step, then another towards Satoko's uncle. The more I walked, the more my breathing calmed. The more I walked, the more I felt my body cooling, calm, chilling with frost. Yes, at this moment, this guy had lost permission to live. I had just resigned it. So he mustn't stay in this world any longer. If he lived any longer, if Satoko's misfortune continued, it would be my responsibility for having allowed him to live. I could feel the cooling substance going through my whole body, even down to my capillaries. Her uncle was at my feet now, still on the ground like an idiot. I smiled coldly at how ridiculous he looked. That's all it took for it to hurt. Satoko's heart hurt much more, and now you're gonna feel that. And with your life, I'll make up for her pain. I erased all unnecessary information from my mind. I prioritized the murder of this man. Execute. 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 Wham! Utterly calmly, I delivered my first strike to the back of his head. I wanted to get at the most effective spot. At least during that first moment I'd have to attack him while he was at his most defenseless. And if he was hit in the head, he'd cover his head. He was a defensive reaction all humans made, like machines. He used both hands to cover his head, so he couldn't pick himself up off the heap. He wasn't on the ground. Alright. Like pounding a caliper into the dirt, I'd hit him over and over. If he covered his head, I'd hit him in the side. If he covered his body, I'd go for his head. If he rolled over, I'd strike his feet, his knees, his elbows. I didn't care where anymore. By just delivering one blow after another, I induced pain in him. I retained my overwhelming advantage, but I hadn't done nearly enough to deliver a fatal wound. Her uncle skillfully pulled himself up on the ground. I started to run like a fleeing rabbit. Oh god. It wasn't a judgment he made after seeing my face and deciding where to fight me. Right now, he was fleeing by instinct, just trying to escape from the threat that had presented itself. A counterattack from the more physically capable uncle was what I was most concerned about. He may have run, but it wasn't all that unlucky, and the odds were in my favor. The uncle didn't run away towards people, but off the path into the woods. How pleasant that he would run in a direction where nobody else was. He was fleeing into strange geography, like a rat that instinctively runs into the tight spots over and over. Okay, well, you gotta go after him, Keiichi. Try not to have him run away too far away, otherwise he's gonna hide and you're not gonna be able to find him. Yes, he was no longer human. He was a rat. The blood vessels in my legs expanded, and my total oxygen supply increased. I lowered myself to gain the most explosive velocity I could. Without breathing, I became a wind-like shadow, and dashed. I crossed thickets, crushed dead tree branches underfoot, and dove through the woods like a bullet. He ran so cowardly, arms flailing as he went. After catching up to him, I didn't need so much as a blink of an eye to strike him again. My senses, mind, and body were all sharpened purely to kill this man. This was the first time I'd felt like this. Well, this was the first time experience I'd ever had killing someone. It felt natural continuing to do this for the first time, and that meant I had this much talent for killing. Or perhaps the act of killing was so simple that anyone could do it. I didn't struggle or grow tired at all chasing the clumsily fleeing uncle. No matter how much he ran, he was like trying to get away from his own shadow. He couldn't get away from me. Alright? I could easily aim at his back, his shoulder, and his head even from this unnatural stance. Each time I struck him, he wailed in pain and begged pitifully for forgiveness, but it didn't disturb my mind. I was neither excited nor plagued by hesitation like before. I felt sharp. I felt like a carnivore. Of course, so did the uncle, who was trying to run away because he didn't want to die. He didn't want to be eaten, like a herbivore running away with all its might, trying to get away. Despite all the attacks, despite all the hits, he kept on fleeing without even staggering. And despite bad footing in the forest, he impressively never tripped over anything. But there was no need to admire that fact. He was simply proof that he was no more than an animal. If he chased, he would run. He was going to be killed, he would run. He bared his fangs at the weak, but couldn't oppose the strong whatsoever. He was lowly, vulgar, a diminutive animal. Such a puny little creature had harmed Satoko. Scar after scar to her body and mind. Deep wounds that might not ever go away as long as she lived. Oh. My cold and calm emotions suddenly turned into bestial ones. My personality changed into something specialized for murder, purely to devour the diminutive animal before me. The uncle gave a puny little shriek, covered his head, and ran. I'm impressed by how much you can run. Fine, run as much as you like. I'll be your death. I'll choose the moment at my leisure. Your legs will hurt, your lungs will fear about to burst, your head will hurt from lack of oxygen. If you feel the pain has become worse than death, then by all means, stop any time. Without turning back, suffocating on his terror of the approaching death, he just ran shamefully onward. He ran, was chased, his head bashed with a metal bat, sweat and drool flying everywhere, blood clinging to him. From his mouth came the sounds of coarse, irregular breathing and high-pitched screaming that verged on crying. And pleas for forgiveness to someone. I didn't know who. Each and every second was a second of atonement that I granted him. Now, run. Then fall and moan and die. Where did he even crawl out of anyway? You were never here before. If you were never here, you never should have showed up. If you never showed up, our lives would still be fun and enjoyable. We would have gone to today's festival, waited for each other, and gone to the shrine, laughing. We would have been playing amongst the stalls right about now. We'd be browsing the strange food stalls you only saw at festivals, trying to get prizes from goldfish scooping, ring throw, or target practice. You would surely make it into a competition, and we as a club would have a grand time. And everyone would have been cheering for the Kachan's dedication dance, and everyone would say how fun it was, and it would give us energy for days to come. Fun, enjoyable, and funny, warm time spent with friends. And that's what have happened. But it didn't. And I was all smashed to pieces. There was no doubt that would be what the world was like if you never showed up. You were the obstacle, the mistake, the rare scene in that world. But I would correct that mistake now. I would erase you and make it so this last week never happened. The night was the Watanagashi festival, the holy night, where taking just one life was permitted in the name of Uyashiro-sama's curse. Oh boy, the purge! Oh, it looked like the Higurashi stopped crying at some point. When the Higurashi cried, everything would end. And the Higurashi silenced. Lowly one. The hour of atonement is at an end. The Higurashi have stopped their crying. Thus it is the end. The end. The end. The end! End! You don't have to run away anymore. Die with those dirty brains of yours smashed everywhere. Gah! Lightning and thunder struck like an explosion. It was so loud it shook the ground, and I smelled gunpowder. The response I got this time was clearly different from the one before. The metal bat crunched into the crown of his head. It was like the top of his head had caved in. The bat felt like it was biting him. Oh boy. Yeah, I'd been the final killing attack that visited him. When I didn't overlook the opening he left at his knees gave out under him. I remained alert for a few moments, and then the thud. He planted both knees in the ground, and then fell forwards, burying his head in the ground. Well, that sure was something, Keiichi. Yeah, sure was something. That was quite a show that you displayed there. I'd be holding back my ragged breathing. But now it all came out of me like a dam bursting. My head was dizzy and light, and unable to maintain my balance, I leaned against a nearby tree. The uncle didn't try and guard his head any longer. After a disgusting sort of spasm, he stopped moving. Did I get him? Did I get him? For sure? I fought back my exhausted urge to fall over where I stood, and drew towards him carefully, and bet still at the ready. It was possible he was faking it and trying to wait out. Should I check for a pulse? I realized right away, though, how unnecessary that would be. If I thought he might be faking it, now I'll just have to keep pummeling him until I was satisfied. I fought back my ragged breathing again. Then I swung my bat far above and brought it down. Clock. His body leaped like a bow, but he didn't try and cover his head. Then, once again, I aimed for his head and swung. His reaction was the same this time. After spending a few moments making his head into mochi, the hits gradually started to feel different, and started to spray a filthy dark red liquid everywhere. And that was enough. He was definite now. I had absolutely killed him. Alright, well, I guess so. It is now finished. You actually did the Keiichi. Now comes even harder moments from now on. There was no sense of accomplishment, nor one of regret. I didn't feel anger towards Satoko's uncle, nor pity towards Satoko herself. Instead, right now, it was feeling like my heart had been stolen by the downpour. It had begun to rain at some point, and how comfortable it felt. The rainwater drenched my body and dripped down to the ground. And the excitement within me faded as the rain washed away the grime. In exchange, my shoes were so wet they made splashing sounds. And despite abusing Satoshi's bat like that, he wasn't bent very much. There were a few dents in it, probably from hitting the man, but nothing that would make it seem different from before. Instead, he had been stained with black, with red, with mud, and blood. But that itself would be evidence. The one piece of evidence needed to prove that my delusions hadn't just been daydreams, and that I'd ended Satoko's uncle for all eternity. Alright, Keiichi. Calm your mind. The time for passion is over. Now is the time to be cold as ice. I needed to bury the body. But where was I? I simply followed the man as far as he ran into the darkness. I couldn't take a guess as to how far we'd run. It was already pitch black around us, and the only light I had to go on was the very faint lights on the road a little further down. It was so dark out. I hadn't noticed the darkness until just now. My vision was so good I could see the man's ugly hairline. I could have counted the pores in his head. It was only now that I realized how much crazy strength I had mustered at that moment. You were clearly in the zone there, Keiichi. I went over to the streetlight. I looked up and down the road, desperately trying to figure out where I was.
ここは
Oh my god. And this is a place where we were with Satoko at some point, I remember. Oh no. And this was the one road connecting Hinamizawa to the town. We were unbelievably far away from Satoko's house. Had the two of us really run so far at a distance? My surprise at that was accompanied by knowledge of the miraculous fact that despite running so far and making so much noise, we hadn't come across anybody at all. I mean, I did say that this was a familiar place, but I'm just looking at it from the perspective that it looked like a very similar background right over here, but it could be like a totally different place. And there was a long way between here and the ambush location where I dug the hole. There was no way I could carry the body that far. Wait, aside from that, the bike the man took here was still lying in the middle of the path. And that would be an issue. The police could tell whose motorcycle it was by looking at its license plate. And they wouldn't just leave it at that. Thankfully, the corpse was in a dark forest. In terms of urgency, dealing with the bike would come first. And I wanted to get the shovel back from where I left it next to a hole. I shouldn't drag the body there. I'd have to deal with it right here. I guess that means that we would have to dig like another hole, like right now. Either that or we drag the body all the way through the forest to the first hole. That's actually quite difficult, Keiichi. Fortunately, the ground was like mud from the downpour. It was more sludgy here than where I was before. I may be able to dig a grave quickly here. Of course, my bicycle was still over where I left it too. It still wasn't over. Homicide, and only being half of my goal. The other half would be just as important as the first. I would completely hide the body, not allowing a beginning to happen. I would erase the man like it never existed, and regain the peaceful times we had before. I bent my head backwards, and calmed my mind even further. The big water droplets struck my brow mercilessly. They were actually quite comfortable, and for a while I let my desire have its way. After confirming that I was sharp again, I started running through the rain. Alright, well, let's begin the process. The motorcycle was in grass at the roadside. Considering how it looked, pelted with rain and covered in mud, it actually seemed like it had been lying there for a very long time. The plan was to drop the motorcycle into the swamp. The swamp was a bit of a walk from here. I lifted the bike up. I didn't think it would be so heavy. I was a little surprised. But once I had it upright, it was fairly easy to roll it around. Still, pushing this thing all the way to the swamp was really not something I wanted to do. I could no longer ignore my exhaustion. And it warned me numerous times of how far away the swamp was. And this motorcycle. I wonder if I could ride it well enough. Once I got it going, it would be basically the same as a bicycle. Wouldn't it get me to the swamp quickly? Oh, sweetie. I don't know if you could actually make it. I mean, it is a motorcycle. It's a little bit different from a bicycle. A plan suggested by my exhaustion. The anxiety at getting on my motorcycle for the first time was true. I mean, I never rode a motorcycle myself. I do enjoy riding my bike though. How different is it? Well, you'd surely need like a license for it, that's for sure. So, probably is difficult. I turn the key, and then you just kick the pedal, right? Yeah. Yeah. It's on. It's on now, bitch. And then I grip the handlebars. First right, and then left. Oh god, don't fall, Keiichi. Maybe I twisted him too much. The bike lurched and did a wheelie like an angry horse. I lost it for a second. But it was just a problem of how much torque to apply. Let's try it again. And this time, slowly, gently. The time it went well. It was strange to be on a two-wheeled vehicle that would go even if it didn't pedal. Very odd, but I got used to it quickly. Pedal to the metal. He almost told me you could get a scooter license within a day. And she was clearly right. A scooter license within a day. My God! Was that how it was? Like, back then? Maybe it's not really Maybe it's not that big of a motorcycle, maybe. I don't know. Was it really that easy to get a license for a motorcycle at that point? You know, I envy the past when it comes to getting a license and, like, when it comes to cars and such. Because, of course, these days, in the 21st century, there are a lot more cars. Not to mention that in the city, it is that much difficult to get a license to begin with. And there are like so many cars you don't have to worry about so much. I did get my license, finally, after such a long time, but it is difficult. You people of the past, you had it good. And I had to throw the metal bat into the swamp too. But I didn't know I would pack the bat under the motorcycle. Okay, I know that I'm just being silly right over here, but give me a break, viewers. Like, we're going through some serious moments right over here. Like, I can afford to be a little bit silly right now as well. Without much other choice, I stuffed it into the back of my shirt, feeling like a ninja carrying a katana. Like I'm just adding like the extra motorcycle sound effects while Keiichi is thinking about this as he's going through the swamp with the motorcycle. If I put the tip down the seat of my pants and hunched over it, it wouldn't fall out. I mean, did you at least clean it? There's the rain. You could reuse the clean to clean it a little bit. Otherwise, make sure that you don't get like any of the blood. Actually, who am I kidding? Like, you probably more than likely got some blood on you from killing Teppei. But I guess it's good that it's raining because you can at least clean yourself a little bit. I got back on the bike and this time got going without any difficulty. I carefully pressed the button labeled light, and a rather strong light came on, illuminating the way forward. I probably really shouldn't have turned it on, but I didn't have any way of seeing at this point, and I had zero confidence I could ride through this darkness. Like, imagine if somebody were to see the lights in the forest. As the rain came down on me, I maintained a precarious balance and inched my way towards the swamp. Along the way, I ran across a few people who seemed to be returning from the festival, but none of them had any interest in me. They were either all sucked through with the rain and hurrying on their way home, or had their umbrellas lowered and their heads down. That's actually pretty good. Yesterday I might have been wary of even these passersby, but right now it didn't seem to be much cause of concern. In fact, you'd probably be less suspicious to be riding out in the open like this instead of sneaking around. More and more though, I start to think of the idea as naive, brought on by my exhausted state. I climbed a steep hill. On a bike, the hill would have put me out of breath, but I just had to accelerate a little bit to climb the entire thing. Motorcycles sure are convenient. For a moment, its lights illuminated a sign before I passed by it. Onigafuchi Swamp / good children do not play around here. Still, it wasn't like the way to the swamp was cordoned off by a metal fence or anything. Parents and teachers would get mad at you if they found out you were playing at the swamp. But some of the bad kids in my class apparently snuck out here sometimes to see the giant crayfish in place. They talked before about how they'd go to the candy shop and buy some pickled squid, then just tie it to a fishing line and throw it. and all the crayfish would come running. Once I got up to the bank, there was a tiny ritual shrine and traditional ropes on one of the trees. And there's the swamp, and as it saw the downpour home, the blackened swamp head waited for me. If I slammed on the accelerator from the cliff like stop I was on now, the thing would fly straight into the middle of the swamp. I had to be careful not to fall in with it. I mean, we could experiment with it, Keiichi. Maybe if we go into the swamp, we would reach hell. We could talk to some demons right over there. Maybe we can get like an appointment with Oyashiro as well. If I drowned in the spirit, man, what a stupid ghost story that would be. On the night of Watanagashi, Satoru's uncle's corpse was found in a thicket by the road leading to town, and Keiichi Maebara went missing. Oh god. Imagine if that were to happen right now. People would whisper that I'd be demoned away. The 50 years curse would be a half-baked one. Okay. I got off the bike and twisted the accelerator as hard as I could. I let go just when it seemed like it would drag me forward. The bike shot off the cliff and was swallowed down into the swamp, leaving a far fainter splash than I imagined. Help me! Help me! I'm drowning! What the fuck? Its surface was being pummeled by the downpour, and the muddy, filthy water was flowing into it. The motorcycle was the second one that was the victim of the Oyashiro curse. The motorcycle was demoned away. I could make out the motorcycle I just thrown in there. It was pretty heavy after all. You'll be quickly engulfed by the soft mud at the bottom of the swamp, and you'll be pulled deeper and deeper until it reached hell itself. I felt no reluctance whatsoever in throwing the man's motorcycle down to the land of the demons, but I did have a tinge of regret about Satoshi's bat. I washed the bat with muddy water, and the gore sticking to it came off easily. Okay. I had sort of shared today's events with Satoshi, so I wanted to give it a quiet place to stay. And that's how I felt. I started to feel more like returning it to the locker from before, so he could continue to keep watch over Satoko. Which would be...
Satoshi, 俺、多分お前のこと誤解してた。
Satoshi listened quietly, without nodding. I am absolutely convinced now. You were the one who beat your aunt to death last year and saved Satoko. I always scorned you and called you a coward who ran away. But I was wrong. To the rest of the world, some deviant was behind that incident. But I know that was something you did for her. And then you disappeared. You finally got back that peace and lost it within days. So, I swear to you that I will live life to the fullest from now on. Live it enough for the both of us. I will live on as though this week, this day, never happened. But I will never forget the short time we shared together, for as long as I live. I didn't know what expression Satoshi made as he listened, but as someone who had protected the same girl, I felt he had smiled and given me his blessing. And then, my hand moved of its own accord, and the bat I had hesitated to throw away left my hands and flew through the air. It traveled its parabolic path, spinning all the while, and the swamp absorbed it without sound. There weren't even any ripples when it hit the surface. And that surface was tempestuous because of the downpour, and the bat was long gone. For a moment, I regretted having thrown it, but I realized that might have been what Satoshi had wanted.
そうだよな。俺はまだ感傷に浸る余裕なんかないんだよな。
I would return for my shovel, get on my bike, dig a hole to hide the body, and bury it. It seemed like a simple sequence of events, but I felt extremely exhausted, and I had to do it all tonight. Yeah, still got work to do, buddy. So you better get to it. Come on. Satoshi left me with only the advice that I needed to finish this up soon. Then fell silent for eternity, and disappeared at the bottom of the demon's abyss. I returned to the path I had ambushed her uncle on. My bike was hidden, sleeping in the brush. I stood it back up. My whole body felt heavy, but I needed to finish by the end of the day, even if I had to whip myself to do it. Oh, I forgot something. I didn't just come here for my bike. The shovel was here too. Not good. I was zoning out. Every once in a while, if I let my guard down, my vision would almost go black. Pull yourself together, Keiichi, my brother. It's still not over. I went into the grove of trees and looked for the hole in which I'd hidden the shovel. Unfortunately, I had hidden it deep in the forest. No wanting it to be seen, and now everything was black in the night, and I couldn't see anything anymore. I reawakened my fading consciousness, and realized just how big this annoyance really was.
おい、マジかよ。
The sweat the rain washed away before came back up to my skin. Deep in the forest, where the streetlights could never reach. The fact that it would be so pitch black had been completely uncalculated. Should have brought a light with you or something. With this much darkness, even if I had been able to kill him right away like I planned, I didn't know if I still could have buried him without a problem. What should I do? Or, at the very least, you could have used, like, the light from the motorcycle in order to do your thing. You could have just thrown the motorcycle, like, after you buried the body, I guess. I simply couldn't find a shovel tonight. If I force myself to go deep into the forest, I lose even my sense of direction, and I might actually get lost in there. That might have been an exaggeration, but it was fully possible I trip over a tree root and sprain a muscle. Boom. Boom. This song. Alright, my house's storage room. There was another shovel there. The same fold-up kind. Can I go back to the house, get the shovel, and give up on finding the shovel tonight? It's not as though the name Naebara is written on the shovel. Yeah, that would be hilarious if that were to happen. It's kind of like it's kind of like in that moment in the Amazing Spider-Man 1 movie, where the lizard actually found like what was it? Like the camera, and it actually had the Peter's name. That's a complete screw up. If you actually have like a Maebara written on your shovel. But yeah, I guess you could just go back home, and while at it, you would be able to find like a light to light your way through the forest. That could be a good idea, but it seemed like an unusual item from an import variety store, made in another country, so I didn't want to leave that shovel here. But in this darkness, I couldn't do anything. I should give up and go back to the storage room. And there was an electric lantern in there. Bam. 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 What a silly song this is. I don't know. Like it creates this tone of tension and horror, but like the sounds it uses is definitely something. And you know, I made that the joke of an edit, like in the outro, which you've probably seen in like the last part and the part before that, like the edit, like in the outro. If not, you should totally check that. It's I had a few laughs while I was editing that, but it like full on when somebody watched that outro, it reminded them of an like of a similar edit, but with Rena. Like, so yeah, somebody totally thought of that kind of edit before me. It's funny. If I use that for light, I could look for it. But it was so extremely dark. Bam, bam. Could I light the way with just a lantern? Bam. The light of a lantern in this dark night. I couldn't discard the possibility of it drawing eyes. And I doubted if I could find a shovel with the lantern's feeble light. And besides, I left the body there for a pretty long time already. Yeah, let's not forget that the more you're gonna leave the body right over here, the more you will decay, so it might get progressively more difficult for you to do the deed if the body is gonna rot. My sense of fear, dulled through excessive exhaustion, finally reared its ugly head. Anyway, for now, the most important thing was to hide the body. A shovel being found wouldn't be a big deal, but a corpse? If they found that, I'd share the same fate as Satoshi. First I go back to the storage room at home. Then I get the lantern. Now that it's gotten this dark, I might still need light to dig a hole for the body too. I get the other shovel. And then I deal with the body first thing. Once that was done, I'd come back here, find the shovel and bring it back. I had to do at least that much. But I was so tired. But complaining was getting me nowhere. If I started getting complacent now, everything would have been for naught. At some point, I had sat down. I gritted my teeth and endured, lifting my heavy hips. The night was young. Of all the nights I experienced, none have ever been this long. When would it all end? The night was young. Alright, well, let's get to it, Keiichi. Like, I really miss the girls right now. I know it has just been a few parts right now where it was just me with Keiichi and all that, going through all this, but I miss them. Like, I want to talk with the girls. For right now, though, we have to do this by ourselves. The lights at home were dazzlingly bright. Suddenly, they reminded me of how hungry I was. I checked the clock and saw that it was almost 7. I thought for sure it was 2 or 3 in the morning already. I was surprised at how messed up my biological clock had gotten just from this one night. There was a warm light coming from the curtains in the living room window. And the roads between here and what was beyond those curtains were so different. If only that man hadn't shown up, I would have been in that light. I'd still be excited from the festival, and I'd be talking to my parents about how much fun I had with all my friends. And then, even though they made a hot meal for me, I would have eaten way too much at the stalls, barely eaten any of it, and gone back to my room. No doubt I'd crawl into my futon and easily let myself fall asleep. But right now, I was completely different. There wasn't a single member of warmth from those weak streetlights. Not to mention that we didn't even spend the Watanagashi together with the kids. You know, I was looking forward for Watanagashi in this chapter, like to spend the time with the other girls in similar fashion to the first chapters. And I even had something special prepared for the Watanagashi festival, but I guess we'd have to wait for the next chapter in that case, for the next Watanagashi, see if we can spend the time together with the girls yet again at the Watanagashi, for me to show what I had prepared. Right now, I was unconnected to any time spent with my family, and there was neither warm food nor the time to allow myself to sleep. My body exposed to the cold rain, I knew that I simply had to spur myself on to accomplish what I must. I realized how timid, how cowardly I was becoming. For what purpose did I need to kill someone so badly that it was worth feeling this terrible? I lost sight of that purpose. I selected the fastest, most fundamental way of saving Satoko, and executed it without hesitation. That man was dead. He was gone. He would never, ever hurt Satoko again. We all fought frantically for days on end about Satoko's problem. And finally, with no options, we gave up. And I had solved it in one night. By myself. Without anyone's help. Right about now, Satoko would be making dinner for her uncle, despite not knowing when he'd return. And she might be spending the night trembling in fear of whether he'd yell at her for how it tasted. But her uncle wouldn't come home. She wouldn't have to fear his wrath, nor let him make her feel sad. I see. I did it. I successfully saved Satoko. All I've been thinking about for a long time was killing that man. And I've forgotten to think that it was actually all to save her.
そっか。
I did something good. That's right. I did something good, didn't I? I felt hot tears coming from my eyes. And that's when I first realized that the exhaustion I'd been feeling was actually guilt. The blade of guilt. For a while now, had just been scraping away with its tip, hurting my heart. It hurt so bad I couldn't stand it. It was throbbing painfully. It hurt so much, it was so painful, that I cried. I cried tears of joy at saving Satoko. I didn't know why, really, anymore. I just cried. My tears fell and fell. As I stood there for a while, coming to terms with those warm tears, my heart was comforted a little. Alright, Keiichi, my brother. That's enough. There's nothing to regret or feel ashamed about. Both my body and mind were thoroughly exhausted. And that was a fact. It was only natural I couldn't feel anything. Even tomorrow and the day after that, I might not be able to feel anything for a while. But there was one thing that was true. It was the indisputable fact that I had saved Satoko. One day, we'd surely be rewarded. One day, I'll be proud of how distressing an enterprise I had undertaken to get Satoko's smile back. And, you know, the worst part about all this, Keiichi may be thinking this, but I do get the feeling that something bad is gonna end up happening by the end of all this. I know it. I know this is gonna end up terribly for us in some way. Like, Satoko is not gonna be happy about finding out that you are a murderer, Keiichi. Like, she loves you so much, she doesn't want you to have this feeling for the rest of your life. She wouldn't want that. At least, that's how I see it, if she were to find out. And so that I could wait for that day, I had to put the finishing touches on this night. And same goes for everyone. I mean, you didn't even go to the festival. There is no doubt that suspicion is gonna rise that maybe you're the one who did it, at least from the girl's eyes, and that they are gonna think and they're gonna suspect you and they're gonna worry for you as well. If I left it undone, everything I'd accomplished today would be for naught. I looked back up at the sky, which didn't look like it would stop raining anytime soon. And then I rubbed my eyes and summoned forth energy from my core again. How long did I plan on spacing out? This isn't the time for daydreaming. Someone could find that corpse this very moment. That pessimistic thought was proof that very natural emotional fear had returned to me. Yeah, I mean, let's not forget that the corpse of Tamitake was found, like, the night of Watanagashi in the first chapter. There could very well be police that are searching, like, around in case another body would pop up, just like the other years. They would more than likely come prepared for this. As I allowed the fear to spur me onwards, I went to look for the other shovel and the lantern inside the storage room. It was fortunate. I remember what it looked like around the streetlight the body was near. With how dark it was quite possible I wouldn't have been able to look for it either. I didn't realize that when I left the place, so the idea of memorizing the spot hadn't even crossed my mind. And that's why I had to call it fortunate that I managed to get back to the body like this. The corpse is now located in a big muddy puddle. Half the thing had already sunk into the swamp-like pool of water. I only realized afterward, but there was an unused irrigation channel right nearby, clogged with fallen leaves and dirt. And there was rainwater flowing in from there. My shoes had been awash with water for a long time, so without any hesitation I stepped into the puddle. Luckily, the whole muddy stream washed it all away. I couldn't leave any slight traces, like bloodstains. Man, dude, I don't know. 'Cause you hit him, and then he ran away, and then you hit him some more. It's kind of messy in the sense that there could be, like, blood, like, in the forest as he ran away. That kind of sucks, too. But, who knows, maybe the rain is gonna be able to wash it. The rain was like a blessing from heaven. I checked around me, paying very close attention, and then turned off the lantern. It became pitch black, but my eyes got used to the darkness in a few moments, and once I managed to reach the streetlight on the other side, I was able to make out even faint lights. I stuck the shovel into the puddle right next to the corpse. The ground was even looser here than I thought, and the shovel's tip easily slid inside it. I had to hurry and dig. If I took too much time, I might lose my energy and strength again. Alright, diggy. It felt almost like digging a hole in the sand at the beach. It was easy to dig, but no matter what, the muddy water kept flowing in, covering the hole. The digging wasn't going as well as I'd hoped. I dug and dug, and the water would go in, so I couldn't get a sense of how deep it was. The only way for me to measure it was to bury my own foot in the mud. I'm digging just fine. It's alright. Don't be disheartened. Dig, dig, dig. Come on, dig, dig, dig. Occasionally, a car would come by on the road, and I'd hurry to hide myself in the trees. If one was only passing through, they wouldn't have their eyes peeled in this kind of darkness. I understood it logically, but I still couldn't help but hide. What I was really scared of wasn't quite the one of those cars. Wasn't quite that one of those cars would coincidentally happen to witness me here. It was that the distance I could spot the cars from was getting gradually shorter. At first, I noticed the splashing sounds from really far away as cars drove through them. I started noticing them less and less, and with the car that just passed by, I didn't notice it until its headlights were upon me. I felt my senses growing duller by the second. If someone were to take a peek in secret, as I was burying the body at the worst possible time, maybe I wouldn't even notice. Yeah, that would suck. Imagine if, I don't know, maybe Miyotakaro and Tomitake are around here, trying to survey the scenery and see if their keikaku is going to plans or something like that. I don't know. The moment I thought that, I took a good look all around me. I roused all my half-asleep senses in search for signs of presence nearby. What if I found out someone was spying on me from the trees? Or, worst case scenario, it would be one of the girls. Maybe even Satoko. A carnivorous feeling snarled at me, glaring. If there was, then I would dig another hole. God damn, Keiichi. I come this far already. In order to achieve perfection, I didn't care how much more I had to pay. I didn't know what kind of face I was making at the time, but it was definitely a fervently glaring one. My five senses reached a conclusion that nobody was present. I didn't breathe a sigh of relief. How long had I been digging this mud out of here? It was deep enough for it to go up to my knees. Maybe this was enough. Maybe I'd throw the corpse in as a test. I swore, getting my breathing under control. Despite how much I'd bitten in, I was afraid of touching the corpse. So instead, I dragged it by the feet to the hole. It took more than just a waggle and a tug to do it. But of course, it did. Considering this man's weight, it was easily 80 kilograms. I rallied all my strength and dragged him. At this point, my groundless fears that he might suddenly start moving again had vanished long ago. His body fit perfectly into the muddy hole. Okay, he was more than deep enough. Alright, well, let's bury him. Quickly. If I did a perfect job of burying it here, everything would be over. I would hide it in the hole, and none of this would have ever happened. When I realized I only had a little farther to go to finish everything, I was wrecked with pointless anxiety, like I was in a race against time. It was like I was absorbed in a delusion that if I didn't bury the body quickly, it might come back to life. Yeah, imagine if, like, after this, like, zombie Teppei would just come in and just come after you. Imagine, in that case, in a great rush, I poured mud and dirt into the hole. If I didn't work efficiently, someone might find me here. Until now, I figured if someone saw, I'd just kill them. But not anymore. I was arrested with such absolute fear that if someone saw me, it would all be over. As I finished the work off, it was a total mess. Splash, splash, squish, squash. I drew the surface of the shovel across the ground, trying to make it flat. I was completely covered in mud at that point. The rain washed the mud off my body, but not off my now blackened clothing. My body and mind were caked with panic, with fear, with rain and sweat and mud. My shoulders heaving, I threw down the shovel and sat down in the mud. I was so exhausted that I wanted to lie down right here and sleep. Well, that surely was an experience. He was over. And this time, for real, he was over. The man was now in the bottom of the wet dirt. Right this moment, there were traces that this place had been dug up, but the rain and flowing muddy water would completely cover it all within moments. Yes, he was over.
やった。やった。やったぞ。クソったれ
No screaming, Keiichi. No screaming. And then I fell over backwards, face up in the mud. Yeah. I guess pretty understandable. He is letting it all out. Poor boy. Rain drops pelted my face without mercy, but I didn't care. After staying there for a while, resting my mind, I got up again. It was over. So let's go home. He already buried the whole thing, so now it's like it's never happened. It never happened. So there's no reason for me to stay out here and get rained on. I wobbled to my feet. I wouldn't use the shovel anymore. I considered disassembling it, but I didn't have the strength in my absolute exhaustion. I didn't really need to take it apart anyway. Taking the shovel behind me, I headed towards the light. I stood at my bike. It had been laying in the grass by the road. I didn't know how I was going to get the still assembled shovel into the front basket. I put the shovel down the back of my shirt, like I'd done with the baseball bat. Unlike the bat, the corner of it was on my back, making it very painful. Plus, if I relaxed my posture even a little, it would fall out behind me. Yeah, that's a bit convenient. Yeah, that's a bit inconvenient and uncomfortable. I ended up having to carry the shovel in my left hand and ride my bike using my right hand. Not only was I in a state of total exhaustion, this was a downpour. One hand on the handlebars. I was swaying to and fro like a drunk. But I didn't care. Even swaying like this, I got a little closer to home every time I pedaled. Ah, poor Keiichi. I saw two lights swaying slowly in front of me. A car was approaching. Oh no. I need to get out of the way. From far away in the shadows of the darkness, a car appeared. Its dazzling lights washed over me. The driver made a short honk of the horn to inform me I was in the middle of the road. I have to get out of the way. I kept telling myself that. Not only was I riding one-handed, I was exhausted, so I couldn't do anything. Oh no. Keiichi? I meandered about, not going to the right or to the left. The driver decided to swerve out of the way right in front of me, and without lowering its speed much, steadily came towards me. Its outline grew larger in my vision, and telling myself again that I really needed to get out of the way. I jerked the handlebars in one direction, then lost my balance and fell over, bike and all. Oh my god. My whole body splayed out. and one foot got caught in a bike. And this was seriously bad. My drowsiness quickly vanished, and just as a cold sweat broke out on my skin, the driver recklessly spun the wheel to the left, made a counterclockwise U-turn, and came right up to me and stopped. Okay, well, thank God that no car accident happened there. The driver's seat door opened, and the driver came out. You idiot. What are you doing here? Are you sure someone would yell at me like that? Oh, speaking of someone that we would meet, like, in the neck of the woods. It was a woman's voice, and one I knew. I lifted my face off the ground, and I looked at her. Such a familiar voice. Couldn't you possibly be Eva this time? Like, I kinda wanted to see a familiar face that I liked.
高野さん。
こんばんは。月の綺麗な夜ね。前原くん。